Welcome to my messy craft desk. I've got a coffee and we're going to be working on this altered book again. So in case you haven't seen, I'm doing an altered book project throughout the month of August, and I've made a start on the cover and on some of the pages inside as well. And this is very much inspired by the previous altered book project that I worked on, which if you want to see any of the process videos for how this book came together, I'll leave a playlist link down below. But this turned out so chunky and I really do love it. So I was inspired to do another altered book, but this one is a little bit thinner, and so I'm working on prepping the pages at the minute. That's the stage that we're at. So that's why I've got a bunch of collage papers that I've kind of pulled out here from my stash in various places, and I've also got some clear gesso, I've got some acrylic paint, and I've also got some coffee just to do some coffee dyeing because it's one of the prompts from my Catalysts and Curiosities newsletter this week. So I do a fortnightly little bit of a newsletter slash prompts around a different theme, and I looked at the theme of altar because obviously that's fitting for working in an altered book. So I'll leave the link down below to the post if you want to check it out. You don't need to subscribe in order to access it, but you can of course subscribe if you want, and you'll receive the fortnightly newsletter. And I've been really enjoying doing it, and I love how you all seem to be enjoying it as well. I've received some lovely comments and emails as well about it. So yeah, that's why I've got the coffee, because I'm going to do that. And yeah, I was just thinking, like, I haven't actually done coffee dyeing within my journals for a while, it feels like. I was definitely in a phase of doing that a lot, and so I figured it would fit in quite well with this like prep stage that we're doing. So I'm kind of doing a mix in terms of how I'm prepping the pages in terms of like collage, and then I'm going to add some gesso as well. But also something I did, which I didn't film because it was one of those like ideas you have at like 11 o'clock at night, or at least I do. And so I didn't want to film, but I just was like, I have to do this and see whether it works. So it did, and I can show you. So within this book there's a lot of these like full color like full page illustrations, and so I definitely want to keep quite a few of these within the book. Like I don't want to cover a lot of them up, but I was thinking about like interesting ways that I could alter them a little bit but still keep them true to what they are, and be able to work with them in different ways than simply just adding something to the page. So what I did is I just took a craft knife and I actually cut out one of the illustrations here quite painstakingly with all the different leaves and things. So I don't know, this feels like sort of, you know, I love my fussy cutting, but this is almost like extreme levels of fussy cutting. So I made it so that it's still like a page within the book, if you can see. So what I was thinking is maybe I could have a piece of tracing paper or tissue paper or something behind this, just as a way to maybe have like a transparency or something, just like something a little bit different. But I'm not fully decided, but I just feel like something like that could be quite nice in terms of having something that is then a little bit translucent, and you can still see through then to you know, whatever is behind this page. Or I could add like, I don't know, maybe like some book pages behind it too. I just thought that it could be quite a fun way to work with this. So yeah, I don't know, that was kind of my idea, and it kind of became like a bit of a page prep in and of itself, because once I'd cut it out I was like, okay, I need to rebuild the page, because obviously it's only connected by these three little points here, so I don't want it to fall out of the book. But I just thought that that could be a nice way to have something a little bit different on the page. I'm quite liking the book page behind it actually. And yeah, it kind of felt a bit like altered in a way, but still having the original book showing through, which is something I want to do with this book. And I've realised I've not cut out that little bit there, so I will need to cut out that little bit there. But do you see what I'm going for? This sort of thing. So I'm not 100% on what I'm going to be doing with that yet. I think this might be maybe when we do the next video. So I'm going to focus on more prepping here, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a look at some of the thinking, I suppose, and like the process behind where I think this might go for this book. So yeah, that's the kind of idea that I'm going for. So you can see what I'm thinking, but obviously things do change as we go through a book like this. So yeah, I might not do that to every single page because that was quite time consuming, but I just thought it was quite sweet. So let's go back to prepping some pages. So I think I'm happy with how much collage is going on here and the sort of covered up to non-covered up of the book pages. Like I'm trying to get that balance right between the two. So let's add some gesso here because what I want to do is push back some of the text, but then also have some showing through. So I think then I'll be able to come in with some paint. I've got white acrylic paint, and then I've also got the like buff titanium that I've been using on the cover, which I think might be nice to include on this just as a way of, I guess, having a little bit of a color scheme going throughout the book and having that like warmer tone almost, because the white paint might feel a little bit cold, I think, which is again I think a reason why I was drawn to doing some coffee dyeing, because that will help to add a bit of warmth to everything that we've got going on. So I'm just gonna add this clear gesso, which will obviously help the page to handle the paint that I'm going to add to it. And to be honest, when I've done painting on pages before, like in this altered book, I didn't use any clear gesso and it turned out okay, but I think this is obviously the proper way to prep it, so that's what we're going to do. It will give a nice like textured surface as well, which I noticed when I added it to the cover. And just because I'm a little bit impatient, I'm just going to put some tissue paper there gently and move on to adding this to another page as well. Now, like I said, I do want to keep most of the illustrations in this book, but I will say that this particular illustration is probably not one that I'm like the most fond of in terms of all the other ones going on in the book, but I might keep this chap here and maybe his friend if I'm being nice. But otherwise it's a little bit, I don't know, with like the brick wall and things, I don't really think that's too interesting, and there's definitely other things that I can add to this page. But yeah, I will keep probably this little bit here, and maybe some of the sky as well could be quite nice. And I think for how I'm working in this book, I'm going to try and prep all of the pages in one sitting, because then I know that it's all prepped and ready to go, and then I can just like work on it however I want. I don't need to come back on myself each time when I'm working in this book. And I just think for this type of project, I do want a little bit of cohesion in terms of working like on the pages, like, you know, going like in different places in the book, like flipping between it rather than necessarily going chronologically through it. I think especially because I'm going to have some of those pages where, you know, they might be cut out or there's just different elements to it, then I'm gonna have to, you know, immediately consider the pages around it. So I think it will just be easier to get it all prepped, and then I'm ready then to go to the next like step, if that makes sense. So if you're doing an altered book with me, which I know I didn't like make this any like proper official thing. It's just an altered book in August, but I know I've seen a few of you in the comments and things, you've mentioned that you are also following along. So yeah, we're in our prep phase if you're following along, and then we'll be ready to, I guess, do the more fun bits, even though I do enjoy doing this bit as well. One thing I also wanted to mention, if you wanted something to listen to whilst you are crafting away, working on your altered book or any other projects, is that me and my friend Daisy have rebooted our Crafternoon podcast, which I will leave a link down below. You can watch it on YouTube. We've got our own channel for it, and it's also video podcast this time, so we're able to kind of like show little clips and things of things that we're talking about, and so yeah, we're just really excited to be working on that project. We've got some really cool like interviews already and ones lined up, and we're chatting about some really interesting topics. So yeah, if you want to check it out, I will leave all the information linked down below. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you prefer to watch your podcasts or listen to them over there. I think it should be wherever you get your podcasts, but I don't want to say that and then it not be the case, because I'm not that tech savvy when it comes to the podcast stuff. But yeah, we're on YouTube. I know we're on Spotify and Apple, so if you want to check it out, say hi, leave a comment, that would be cool, because we're really enjoying having that as a little bit of a side project to work with. And obviously I'm really good friends with Daisy as well, so it's just been fun to work on a project with her as well. So yeah, that is something else that I've been working on lately, and it's just been really nice to do more like in-depth projects, I suppose, because obviously the podcast is something that we've been working on for like a few months now. We are excited to do more episodes. Now, one thing I've noticed about this book, some of the pages are not like fully separate in the binding, like some of them are joined together, so I'm trying to be like really careful and gentle with, like, if you can see here, to make it so that the page actually folds properly. I'm assuming it's something from when it's like bound, but trying to do that just so that it lays flat. These flowers are really pretty as well. This is definitely something where I really like the lower half of this, and I don't know, I feel like I'm going to end up cutting this, and it might be quite fun to have some different like sized pages on this. So, you know, just having this one here, but I will prep the whole thing for now, and then I can always make that decision. I can always come back to it. I don't want to like make a hasty decision now that I'm going to cut off half the page and then think, oh, actually, why did I do that? Like, I actually didn't want to do that at all. So let's just prep them all as standard, and then we can go back to it. So yeah, there'll probably be cases where like I've put the gesso here and then I end up cutting the page off, and it might be like a, well, why did I bother putting the gesso on there? But you just don't know with the creative like process. You really don't. Like I could like come back to this in a week and have like a completely different idea, or like another piece of like ephemera or something, and I just think, ah, that's perfect. Or like I've had a different idea, or something is, it's always the case, you want to do one thing and then you end up doing another. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick to prep. I'm gonna kind of be a little bit organized with this, even though I do have a tendency to like immediately jump into another one of the pages. Okay, so that is the entire book now prepped, at least with the gesso, and I think I'm going to go back through it when it's all kind of dried. I was putting tissue paper in between just so that I could carry on with the pages, so I'm hoping I can gently take those out and sort of stand it a little bit like this. It's kind of drying quite quickly, to be honest, so it's not too bad. And the gesso is very gritty, so I'm not too worried about the pages sticking together. And of course this tissue paper won't go to waste. I will set it aside to be reused in some project at some time. It's quite like textured now actually, so that's really interesting that the clear gesso and tissue paper feels quite interesting. So yeah, I'll put that to one side to come back to. Okay, so now that the gesso is dry and the pages look basically the same, except they're now really like textured and gritty, I can now work on the book and start doing the more fun bits of some collage and some paint. So let's do a bit of paint. We will sort of, I don't know, I guess like I want to intersperse some of the collage so that it's not you know, here's the painted bit and here's the collage bit. Some acrylic paint here, and I'm going to just sort of put it in some random areas, I think, and try to do it quite lightly. And yeah, I don't want to cover like everything up, but I just want to push back some of the maybe like text areas and things like that. And I'm just going to add some little layers here of tissue paper because I think that that's going to give some really nice texture when it comes to coming in with the coffee dyed element. And I'm just adding scraps of paper randomly. There's no real layout to this yet, I suppose. It's just adding bits of paper where I think they might fit, and then I'm kind of like working them in with the paint so that they blend in a little bit and don't feel quite so like just like plonked randomly on the page, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a mix of like adding the papers and then also having the texture and the different layers of text on the page. So I'm not too worried about it looking perfect. I just want there to be, I guess, some interest and like things to respond to on the page when I'm doing these backgrounds. So like here you can see I've just put a piece of book text on there and like mostly covered it up with paint there, but you can still see like a hint of the text, and that's kind of what I'm going for, because you know, with the background layers you've got to imagine like most stuff's going to be like covered up or things are just going to be like peeking through, so you can't be too precious with your backgrounds. You've just got to embrace adding things on and having it, you know, play a little part in the rest of how the page is going to look. I'm really loving all of the texture that's starting to come out on this page. I don't really have a plan, like I said, in terms of what these backgrounds are actually going to be at first. I just want to focus on getting it as a background and just having the texture and things to respond to, and sort of cutting out the elements like this little bird here that I want to keep from the page. And so yeah, nothing's really going to look too finished at the minute. It's just, okay, I've pushed that text back, want to keep this image but not quite sure what I want to do with it yet. Again, pushed those bits back, sort of working with this, and I guess we'll see where it goes. I quite like the colours, but we'll see how it looks once I come in with some coffee, because it feels a little bit cold. Like, I don't know whether I want to keep this green area or not. Maybe I'll push it back. I'm really liking the way it looks when it's like cut out like this, like similar to how I've done the cover, where I've kind of kept the main illustration and then done what I've done in terms of collage and paint and things like around it. So maybe that's something that I'll keep throughout this book. But as part of my background prep, I'm just trying to carve out the areas that I want to keep. We're not making too much of a decision in terms of like where the actual page will go. It's just more so, okay, keep this, lose this, and still giving myself the options. And trying to find that balance between paint and collage on the page. While still remembering, of course, this is just one of many layers that's going to happen. Okay, let's try adding a little bit of the coffee now, just to see how that's going to look on this page that I've prepped with the paint and some collage papers. So I'm going to try it on the painted areas just to get a feel for that, and then also onto some of the more like textured areas here with the tissue paper, which I think is going to look quite nice with that texture. So we'll see how this responds. I do really love the way that coffee and white paint can look together, especially on like a background like this. But I'm not like putting it all over the page. I'm just putting it mostly around the edges and just in like certain areas. And I'm just going to see where it sticks to almost. So I'm sort of intentionally leaving like this area here and this area here without too much of the coffee, just to see how it looks. Okay, so there it is dried, and I really love this area in particular with all of the ways that it seeps into the papers, but I think that's given me like a really nice background to work with. It's funny seeing the bird on there because obviously it's so sweet and part of this bird book, but not something I normally go for in my journal, so it would definitely be interesting to work with that on there. So I think I'm going to just add some coffee to this page as well, so that we've got two coffee stained prepped backgrounds ready to go in this book. And maybe I'll add some coffee to the front cover, like the inside front cover as well, but I didn't put paint on this, so maybe I need to come in with a bit of paint and then add the coffee. What do we think? I'm not sure. Let me know what you think on that one. Should I add a bit of paint to it, or should I leave it as something a little bit different? I'm not sure, but I'm really loving the way that that is looking. Like the texture and everything ready. Obviously it's nowhere near finished. There's loads of room for adding other collage bits, like, you know, the layering of smaller elements, and also different like focal point images, and definitely mark making when it comes to my journals as well. So yeah, really love coffee or tea dyeing as a way to bring, I don't know, I guess it adds like warmth, and then also that like sort of vintage element to it, and also just like a bit of messiness, but in just the right way. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it just feels like nice and mixed media-y, but still with those bits of collage shining through. So again, I'm going around the edges and I'm leaving like this area and kind of like this area really blank, in terms of not putting the coffee there, just to give a bit of balance. Like, I could go across the whole page, but then you almost lose the fact that you've coffee dyed it, if that makes sense. Because if you just do a wash, like, it will look nice, but you won't get the, I don't know, the different areas where it pools, and then almost having like the bit that's coffee dyed and the bit that's not is kind of the nice bit about doing it, because you see that difference. So I'm just gonna, again, just pool it in different areas. And then what I did is I used just a hairdryer or a heat gun if you've got one, and I just like gently went across it and tried to like not obviously just like put it on the highest setting and spray the coffee everywhere. You've got to go quite gently from a distance, and I find you have to do sort of a bit of an even drying of it to make sure that the coffee doesn't go in places you don't want it to go. I'm noticing I've got a few coffee granules actually on the page, which is fine because that'll add some texture, and when this is dry they will just brush off anyway, so that won't be too much of an issue. So let's dry this one and then see how this one turns out. And there is our second coffee dyed background ready. As you can see, they always turn out completely different. That's the great thing about doing a technique like this, is that you'll never have two pages that look exactly the same. And I really love the areas where you get the like pooling and different areas of interest on the coffee. So yeah, we've got these two pages now that are prepped and ready, and obviously some of the coffee has seeped through onto this page, so the decision was made for me in terms of should I add coffee to this page. The coffee decided that one, so not to worry though, because obviously that's just more texture and interest. But I am going to add a little bit of masking tape just here, because I can see just on the binding there a little bit of stress, so just going to add this before we then add anything else to this. So this is just normal masking tape, nothing fancy, but I just thought it's fairly strong and it will add the texture and colour as well to the page, so it won't look too strange. And it's matte as well, and if I do want to add any paint, it'll go over this masking tape, no problem. So there we go, a little bit of sort of preemptive repair there, but it kind of goes with everything else that we've got going on this book. So those are my two coffee paint collage backgrounds ready. So I hope you enjoyed joining me for these, and I can't wait to continue working on the rest of these pages. So I'm definitely going to do some more of this technique, I think, throughout this book, just to give it a base for us to be working on. And of course I've got this cutout page as well here, so I will probably bookmark a couple of the pages that I think might work best in terms of the cutout. So I'm imagining like this one here will probably work really well as like a half page cutout, and just sort of make that decision on which ones to cut out and which ones to have as carved out with the paint. And then also, you know, there might be a few where I do just cover them up, like for example, because I've already got this one on the cover, I don't mind too much that maybe I cover that up and do something else with it. But yeah, this is how we are looking. We are all prepped with the clear gesso and we've made a start on the backgrounds. So I hope you enjoyed joining me for this, and I will see you in the next one.